Hello, welcome to Artivism Season 9's inaugural presentation. We have a treat, as always, here in Artivism. And before we start with the introduction of the speakers, I'd just like to say that remember what Artivism is all about. It's about nurturing change for a more dignified coexistence. And what does that mean, right? Take into account how you're investing your time, particularly now in this status quo, because if I just ask the audience here, anybody raise your hand, if you might not like something that is going on in the status quo currently that you dislike, right? Don't forget that you have a power, huge power. And that is, first of all, your time, how you're investing it. And secondly, how you go about it, right? So don't feel discouraged. Just take action, as we do here in Artivism. And of course, we can stay just in this topic for a long time, but we're going to head over to our presentation today. And our keynote speaker is Ms. Rebecca Kindle Karamei. She's a mezzo-soprano known for her, according to the Washington Post, outstanding voice of otherworldly luminous. Again, that is also a quote from the New York Times. And she has earned acclaim for international opera and concert performances of stunning lyricism, musicality, and conviction. The 2024-2025 season sees her perform 4 separate programs on Bard Music Festival surveys of Verloit's music, as well as curate and perform Aspect Chamber Music Series, Tale of Three series. Recital, exploring art song in Vienna, Paris, and New York. Ringle Kamarei has working relationships with classical music presenters around the world, including the Metropolitan Opera in New York, the Macau International Music Festival, the Cleveland Orchestra, and Marlboro, Ravinia, and Bard Music Festivals. The Rose and the Knife with Love Opera was one of the New York Times top classical performances of the year. TEDx Yale presented her talk, Live Performance as a Birthright, in the year 2016. She studied and performed as artist in residence with Marble House Project, leading to her inclusion of artist Kira Nam Green's visionary portrait series, Women in Possession of Good Fortune. In a fruitful, long-running collaboration, Ringle Kamarei has curated repertoire and sung in works by artist and designer Tara Subko as part of the New York Fashion Week and the Art Basel and Performa art festivals in Miami and New York. Welcome.
You want to play? Would you like to play the video now, Carolina, on the artists?
Well, if you like, yes, we can do that. We'd like to present the beautiful posters for season 9 prior to our keynote. And Professor Archie, if you like, so play it, please.
Everybody, my name is Giovanni Ortiz. I'm really sorry I couldn't be there to join you today, but life has just been crazy, I think for all of us. But I just wanted to talk real quick about the piece that I made. This is something that I call Madre Tierra, la abuelita universal, or Mother Earth, their universal grandmother. This is a piece that I did that actually depicts my grandma cradling the earth because I feel like we're going through a time where we all just kind of need an unconditional love, which is something I think a grandmother usually can provide. I incorporated a lot of personal symbolism throughout the piece. I have an aloe vera plant, which is a really powerful plant that is associated with a lot of healing properties, which I think we could all benefit from at this point in time. I have, roses throughout, which is actually my mom's name. Her name is Rosa. And, that's my mom's mom. Have a dragon in there, which is just my favorite animal. And at the end of the day, we only have one Mother Earth. I think we must do better for all of us and for our universal grandmother. And more than anything, I think this piece promotes healing, which we can all definitely benefit from. But seriously, thank you again. It was really an honor to have been selected as part of this, and I really do appreciate it. And hopefully I hope to hear from all of you soon. Thank you again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the presentation.
I was called by the special unit of my school to take part in an activity in which I would create the logo of the African Book Project. In my logo, I aim to highlight the beauty of African people while connecting it to the foundational elements needed to establish a library in Africa. For me, these elements were books, so I created a beautiful African woman with a golden hoop earring with an open book in the middle.
We are grateful for the selection of Lara's artwork. An artwork that was inspired by Africa Book Project, an artwork that symbolizes our will to help everybody get close to an education through literature. Libraries are the future of our civilization. Please help us make as many libraries as we can.
Beautiful. And here are the two posters that we saw there at the end. Season 9 is really rocking it because, as you saw, we have two posters, one from Los Angeles, California, and the other one from Lamazu, Cyprus. And both of them are stunning and their stories. So you can check them out on the website to read a bit more about the artist's intent. And now, Ms. Ringle Kamarei, the floor is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to be brief. I went to middle and high school in a science lab town in Los Alamos, New Mexico. So if you've seen the movie Oppenheimer, that film's sense of ambition and adult responsibility to the world was still present in the town when I was there. When I went into opera, my mentors in the community taught me to pursue the same kind of independent learning odyssey that had allowed them to become scientists. I've been a classical soloist for over 20 years. I had my first professional job in Don Carlo with the Cleveland Orchestra in 2003, and I'll perform Tarika Regan's triptych at Carnegie Hall next month in March. That longevity came from some incredible privilege and luck, and from the determination that I learned from the community that launched me. So how do we make community, and how can art help? 2 weeks ago, I performed on a recital for Aspect Chamber Series that highlighted the work of salonières. So salonières were women in Europe from the 1700s to the 1900s who hosted salons like this one. They were evenings of art, music, and conversation that allowed the communities to sit and process the change that was shaking their worlds: revolution, social upheaval, loss of love and children, economic loss. The classical music that I have sung for 2 decades was in many cases commissioned and programmed by these women. I felt lucky to learn about them for the first time after singing music that they had initiated for 20 years. And in their honor, here are 5 values that I'm focusing on and contributing to right now: trust, compassion, beauty, growth, laughter. Trust. I was talking to my father last week about the 1968 photo of the Earth from the moon. And he was saying what a lightning bolt that photo was at the time. The photographic proof that we are all in it together as a family, not conceptually, not as a pie in the sky ideal, but as a very practical matter. And as a global tribe, we're still coming to terms with this photo. We have not all grown up enough yet to handle it, but we're going to get there. Compassion. I'm paraphrasing writer Yuval Noah Harari, but humans have been empathic and collaborative and compassionate, and we have needed one another for survival for millions of years. The idea that the natural order is only hierarchy and a zero-sum fight for power is scientifically incorrect and strategically flawed. We just need each other. Beauty. I'm finishing the novel On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. The beauty of this writing has expanded my world and made me closer to events in my own life. And I am as grateful to Ocean Vuong as I am to Robert Schumann, Virginia Woolf, and Beyonce Knowles. Growth. I want to shout out 2 organizations. First, the group Run for Something, founded by Amanda Littman. Run for Something recruits and supports young, diverse leaders running for local office across the country. They recruit them, they train them, they support them, and if they endorse them, they support them all the way through the election day. Next, Sing for Hope, which has been part of my life for 15 years. Sing for Hope teams with communities and artists, and their creative programs bring hope, healing, connection to millions of people in hospitals, schools, care facilities, refugee camps, transit hubs, and community spaces worldwide. I won't say more about Run for Something or Sing for Hope, but their records speak for themselves, and you should absolutely look them up if you want to have a good day. Laughter. My husband and son and the other kids at my son's preschool are the funniest comedians I know. Meditating on these values, especially in tough times, fills our cup so that we can act with wisdom and emotional resonance. It lets us transcend reactivity and discern the next most logical action for the good of everyone. And it helps us recruit others and to work well with them. The salonières, these incredible women, use the order and beauty that comes in music, art, and literature to bring depth and possibility to their communities in periods where it seemed like intolerance and despair might take root. They housed the composers when money was tight. I'd never learned any of this. They were the ground level leaders in their circles, emotionally, spiritually, and often politically. Artivism has echoed that effort in hosting these talks. Thank you. And when I watched La Madrina this weekend, the film about the main speaker today, Ms. Lorine and her older sister energy reminded me very, very much of an old school salonière that just makes things happen. But I wish you all trust, compassion, beauty, growth, and laughter forever. And that's what I got.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ms. Ringle Kamarei. And
Thank you.
Now you're part of the Artivism family, of course, you know that, right? And
happy.
As we continue now, remember Artivism is Artivism, the power of art for social transformation, is sponsored by Adelphi University, of whom we have our team members here, Professor Argia Galarakis and Dr. Stephanie Lake. And it is an honor to have you as part of this team, of course. Then we also have the Gottesman Libraries, Teachers College, Columbia University, and Sing for Hope. And now let's check out our main speaker for tonight. Ms. Lorine Padilla is a 69-year-old Puerto Rican woman raised in the South Bronx here in New York. She's a mother of 7 children, 13 grandchildren, 3 great-grandchildren. Lorine grew up in gangs since she was about 11 years old and married the founder of the largest street gang in New York City during the 1970s. A dropout in 7th grade, she later went on to earn a GED and an associate and a bachelor's degree in social work. While studying, she realized she needed to join boards, school boards, community boards, clinic boards, any kind of boards that could voice the community. This is a quote. "I am a survivor of child molestation, rape, and severe domestic violence," end quote. As an activist, she uses her voice and survival skills to force change in her community. Lorine's latest fight is on gun laws because one of her grandsons was a victim of a stray bullet while walking through a park. Due to health reasons, she can no longer be out in the trenches fighting, but she still fights via her telephone or with people who go to her home seeking help or information on various issues. Another quote, "Today, I belong to a program called Credible Messengers, where I train or speak about peace on the streets and how to try to achieve it," end quote. Ms. Lorine, it is a pleasure. Here we are. Please make us part of your community as well.
Thank you. First and foremost, thank you for the invitation to speak. You kind of said my whole bio, but I'd like to start that I was part of the Bronx when the Bronx was burning. If you look at Ukraine, when you see how it's been bombed and the buildings are falling and there's only rubble and the kids are walking through rubble and smoke and all that. That was my reality for many, many years. But I was conditioned. So I didn't realize the harshness. I didn't realize the abuse that was being committed. In fact, two of my brothers were one time paid to burn an empty building, and I played chicky. And play chicky means I was the lookout, making sure if the cops would come. And my brothers got paid like $500, but $500 at that time was a lot of money. Not once did I think that I was being part of the problem and not part of the solution. Now, at the age of 19, I got pregnant, and my child's father was in prison. And I found myself on welfare, found myself staying at my mom's house, and that didn't turn out too well. During one of my stays, my mom had asked me to leave with my son, and so I went to the next building and lived under the steps for about 1 or 2 weeks. But anyway, when my son turned 3, I put him in a Head Start program. And I always say Head Start gave me a head start, because I had time on my hands. So I started to join their committees and go with them on buses up to Washington to fight. Yeah, that's my son right there, my firstborn. To fight for to avoid budget cuts, and it just kind of opened my eyes to my reality. It is then that I really started to see the injustices within my community and within my people. And buildings were beginning to be built, and they looked beautiful. Just a little side note. I moved into a building that had 50 apartments. It was one building. But before that building was built, there used to be 4 buildings with more than 50 apartments. But of course, I didn't realize that when I was hoping to move in there. I just wanted a fresh start. I wanted an apartment with no rats and no roaches, and I wanted heat, and I wanted cleanliness, and I wanted community for my child. Anyway, so I began to join. There used to be a priest called Father Gigante within my neighborhood, the South Bronx, and he's the one responsible to begin to rebuild the Bronx. And so I started to go to his meetings at night, and we fought together, because one never fights alone. Your fight could start alone, but it doesn't end alone. There will always be people that will join your fight. You just have to use your voice. You just have to go to the right places. But anyway, so I joined with Father G, and we started to fight to get monies into the South Bronx to rebuild. And that, I think, was my first real activism. That was really my first, because it made me go out into the communities and talk to the residents and find out what their concerns were, what they were wanting in their community, what they felt was lacking. And that propelled me to not stop. I'm telling you, it was nights after nights after nights. But anyway, we did rebuild. We rebuilt, and once that was done, during the rebuilding, I've started to realize the lack of education, or the mediocre education that our kids were getting. The visit to the doctor, where you went in, my son is not breathing well. They put the stethoscope, and then they tell you, oh, he's fine, but I'm going to give you a butyral pump or medicine. And if you see him do that again, than just give them the medication. And I started to realize how it was a mechanism of money making. It was a mechanism. I wasn't working, so I was on Medicaid. So it was let's charge the Medicaid, and the pharmaceutical. All of these things started to dance in my head. I realized also in going to all these meetings how people would introduce themselves and say, my name is so and so, and I have a PhD in such, or I have a master's degree in such, or I have a bachelor's in such. And people tended to feel that they were the ones capable or chosen to be the spokesperson for my community just because they had these titles. And I said to myself, shit, I need to get a title just in case I'm ever asked. And so I decided to go and get a GED. By this time, I had a second child. I had a second son. So I went and got myself a GED and immediately applied for college, got in, did a 2-year, then went on to do another 2 years to get the bachelor's. And of course, what else was I going to choose if not social work? Most of my friends that grew up in the gangs with me, they're retired now as counselors, social workers, caseworkers, drug counselors, you name it. We run the gamut. But so I finally did. I got my degrees. By that time, I had, I think, 5 kids. No, 6. I had 6 kids by then, and I was going to school full time. I had a job in a meat market wrapping the packages, and it was off the books, meaning my pay was not on a payroll. I got paid in an envelope. But I did that too. And not once was there not a problem in my community. So I decided to join boards because I realized the power that boards have within your community. For example, we have problems with the garbage pickup, the street lighting. And I realized that the people who had the power to get that done were community boards. So I joined community boards. The same thing with the medical field. So I joined a medical clinic board. I joined the PTA. Then I became a school board member for over 25 years within my district, where we were responsible of hiring, firing, and making sure the curriculum was being followed, and we hired licensed teachers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I joined housing boards. Every board, anything that had board next to it, I wanted to join because I knew that that's where the power was. And now I have my tools. I had degrees. I wouldn't introduce myself that way, but I had them in case, I was questioned. And I have to say, nobody ever questioned me. But because even when I didn't have degrees, people thought I had a degree. So anyway, and that's how change became in my neighborhoods. This is how our children had 2 basketball courts. They had a park. They had trees. You walk out the building, and in each season, you can see the different colors of the tree, the sun, because when we began to rebuild, we didn't want buildings that were going to hide the sun. So the sun would come in. We'd have block parties. We celebrated Christmas. The buildings, it was 4 buildings, but there was one in front of the other where I lived. And so we would hang from one balcony to the next balcony. We'd hang the Christmas lights. So when you went through, it was a very Christmassy feel. And that's, I even joined a prenatal study when I was pregnant of my last daughter. They were studying it's funny, domestic violence and pregnancy. So and there's a big correlation, a very big correlation, and a very high volume of women who die when they become pregnant. So yes, I was a survivor. I am a survivor of domestic violence. I began to be abused when I was sexually abused when I was about 8 years old, and it was a family member. Um, then when I was 20, because I had already had my son. My son was a month old. I got raped by a very good family friend. Good in quotations. I got beat a lot. But I have to say that all of that has allowed me to have, I don't know, people call it resiliency. I just call it strength. I call it a must do, a have to, a will do. It took years of healing. Trust me, I had plenty therapy. It took years of healing, but my faith and my must do never wavered. I just knew that I had to do better. And I knew that many of the people in my community, though they had a voice, were afraid to use it. When I started to notice that people would come to me, oh, look, Lorraine, this is going on and this is going on. I don't know what to do and this and that. So then, of course, I would gather a group of my warriors and we just go and whether it was protest, demand, whatever it is or whatever it was. I continue to have that spirit within me. It's like my inner beast that when I see an injustice, it just stirs like, it's not just anger, it's just this, it stirs empathy. It stirs empathy because I begin to feel what they're feeling, because I'm one of those people that unfortunately almost have been through anything you can imagine. I have been shot at, I've been jumped, I've been arrested. The only two things I've never done, and it's not for nothing. One is drugs. I've never done drugs, and I thank God for that. But the other is be a lesbian, and it's not nothing against lesbians, but those are the only two things I haven't done in life. And I think I'm too old for that now. But plus I'm married. But yeah, so when someone comes to me with something that's bothering them, and it doesn't have to be a lacking. It can be, a child that was bullied in school, and the schools are not really, doing much. It could be they don't have enough to pay rent, and I know of a program that might help them, at least a one-time shot. So the problems continue in my communities. And as long as they continue, I will continue till my last breath. I tell my kids this all the time. When you bury me, when you put me in the box, make sure I have my fist up. Because I want to die knowing that I fought. And that was my last fight, But yeah, that's basically my story. I don't know what else we could talk about, but that's basically how I evolved into, who I am today. I love people. I just love people. I've never met a stranger. I am that person that if you're riding the bus with me, I will strike up a conversation with you. Maybe I like your shoes. Maybe I like your earrings. Whatever it is, I will strike a conversation up. I am that person that thanks a veteran when I see an old veteran with a hat that says, served in Korea or Vietnam or whatever. I will, before I get off the bus or the train, say thank you for your service. So yeah, I've never met a stranger. We're living in a horrible climate now, and the fight has become much more important and much more wide. Um, the discriminatory practices are immense. Uh, People are scared. People are angry. People are hurt. And this climate has brought out the worst instead of the best in people. Um, and I say that because when I see all the discriminatory practices that are done, not just by the orange man, but in communities all over the country, but all over the United States, when you have an 11-year-old girl who committed suicide because her friends were telling her that they were going to call for her and her family to be deported, um, when you have a white cop uh, beat up on a black kid simply because he questioned why he was being stopped, uh, when you have a New York prison system where 6, 7 correction officers beat a black man to death and just got arrested, and this happened like 2 months ago, and now they're out on bail. Um, when you see the president of the United States say to Ukraine, "You started this war," when you see the genocide happening in Palestine, I mean, all of these things can make people feel hopeless and helpless. And I just want to be that person that can give someone a glimmer of hope. Um, a lot of people don't know the strengths they have because they're wallowing or they're suffering in what they believe is helplessness. But just showing up to work is a strength. If we look at people for their strengths, we won't see the weaknesses. And so we will work from there. And so that's basically who I am. I'm a staunch, not even staunch, I'm just a strong believer in my faith, and it carries me through. And I'm a strong believer in humanity and the will of the people. So that's it.
Thank you, thank you. Now we can open it up for a conversation. And Ms. Padilla, like your message there that there are no strangers brought me back to what Ms. Ringle Kamarei mentioned about that photograph that from the Earth all the way from space, right? There are no boundaries. We're all one family. You put it so nicely, both of you, in that sense of, yes, there are all these politics, all these human main divisions or dividers that want to categorize and separate us. But at the end, it's all within each one of us if we just want to follow those models or not. And with that, I would just like to pass it on to Professor RG. Perhaps if you want to open it up to the Q&A session now.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I watched the film and it made me sad. It made me happy. Like we said earlier, I could so relate with everything, being the firstborn, growing up in a not so good neighborhood and what we experienced as children and, I had some horrible experiences as a child and, we would just wake up in the morning and it was just a new day kind of thing. And it's not until you're older, I shocked Stephanie once. She'll probably never forget that one. Um, we do get through, and it brings us to where we are today, right? And it explains why we do the things we do today in a positive way, these forums, connecting with people and such. How did the film come about? How were you approached? I mean, it's such a powerful, powerful film. And listening to you is just, of course, either or. But how did that come about?
Um, Funny enough, it was a woman who made it. So speak of powerful. But so what happened is I know this man. His name is Henry Chalfant, and Henry Chalfant is very well known in the graffiti world. Um, he's been documenting since it began. Uh, I'm trying to remember the movie he made, and I'm not sure if it's Beach Street or the other one. I'm not sure. But I met Henry many, many years ago, and he was friends with a teacher named Rita Fletcher. Now, Rita had recorded, for example, my husband at the time, and my daughter's godfather, and a whole bunch of kids that were in gangs. And one day, her and Henry were talking, and she wanted to come back to see what those kids were doing today. And so they made a film called Flying Cut Sleeves. Yeah, you can find that I think on Google. But anyway, it's called Flying Cut Sleeves, and it goes back to those young kids and the change that they made in their lives. And so there's also another one called 80 Blocks from Tiffany. That was done by a man named Gary Weiss. It was actually first supposed to be a film, a short clip for Saturday Night Live, but when Gary started to delve more into, for example, my ex-husband and I and some of the other participants, it became a film. It's considered a Flying Cut Sleeves and 80 Blocks from Tiffany are considered, I guess I'll say, cult classics within the gang world. But anyway, so Henry and the producer, her name is Raquel Cepeda, they were friends. And she had seen his films. And in these films, she kept seeing me. But this is her explaining to me, but as a secondary, like a supportive actress, you know? So she wanted to know more about me. And so she had Henry introduce her to me and whatever. So we talked about making this film for 2 years, about 2 years. I was not keen on it too much because there's so many films, and I was like, what else can I talk about? But grateful enough that she knew that I had more to my story than those other stories would tell. And that's how the film started. But it took 2 years before we started filming. I also had to trust her. We all know how people can be exploited. So I had to make sure that this was not that case, And so, yeah, that's how the film was made. Now she's part of the family.
I want to just repeat something you had told Caroline and I when we first met after Blanca, actually, Amascua introduced us. She said, you have to connect with Lorine, and that's what we did and how we're here today. But you said something about the power of one, right? How one person could either change or keep safe, all these others, your children, your grandchildren, your neighbors. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that, like you had told us? What is the power of one in your case?
I think the power of one, there's this thing that goes around, each one teach one and each one reach one. I'm not sure in what context I told you about the power of one, but I can tell you that because someone saw me and thought I was worthy, it changed the trajectory of my life. And here's the thing, most of the people who saw me were women, ironically enough. But anyway, and so my power We all have a power. All of us have that same power. My power allowed me to save my kids. So that's the next generation. I see my grandkids being raised today, and so far, there's no gangs, there's no drugs, there's no prison. They're good kids, and those old enough are going to college, and so it's been transferred. And I have faith that my great grands, I have 3 of them, my great grands will also be saved. And I use it in a light way, because saved from what, more so educated, of educated on the right and wrong, the do and don't do. I know I have faith, because I don't think I'll be around when my great grands are in their 20s, late 20s. But I believe I'll be able to see them from wherever I am. And so I know that I will be very proud of them too. And so I'm not sure if that's the context that I was talking about, the power of one, but it just takes one person many times. Just takes one person that believes and has passion, compassion, for whatever. It doesn't take intelligence. It doesn't take degrees. It doesn't take any of that. It just takes the power of one. It takes one person to say, this is not right, and begin to try to do something about it. And then it's kind of like the Pied Piper, you're that power of one. So you start voicing, for lack of a better way, voicing how this is wrong. And when you turn, one day there's one person next to you, but the next day when you turn around, you have 50 people because of that one person.
Lorraine, my name is Brenda. I'm from Los Angeles. How are you?
Hi, Brenda. I'm good.
I'm good. I'm still processing the all the corruption in over here, in the LA fires.
Yeah.
Like it's all land grab. It's like I'm hearing you talk, and it's like hearing my neighbor. It's like we're that one person with a loud mouth, and we don't give a damn if you don't like what we gotta say, right?
That's right.
And
That's right.
That's what makes this one person so dangerous, because they don't sell out. They don't care about how much money you have. You know what? This is my neighborhood, and if you mess with my neighborhood, you mess with me.
That's it.
That's it.
100%.
And then the politicians come and they get all scared because they're like, "Oh man, there's Brenda. And she's gonna talk some, you know what, girl? I know I got you 100%." And I'm so happy you're presenting, because we need to hear more voices like you. We need to hear more voices like ours, that we're from the ghetto. We were raised like this. And you know what? We can speak for our barrios like nobody else. We don't need you, Miss Councilwoman, who's corrupt and sold out. We don't need you, Mayor, who sold out a long time ago. We don't need you. What we need is to show our people the power of comunidad, our community. And that's what we are living testaments of that power. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, indeed.
So my work in Los Angeles, Lorraine, is I was like I was the younger, the younger little girl that grew up with all the girls who were like in the gangs, and like they always protected me. They were like, how we protect our young, like, no, don't start your with. So like I was lucky to see that, to have that first insight, but also be very protected by my community and very protected by gangsters. That's what people think, that gangsters are evil. The gangsters in my hood took care of our community. If you did something wrong in front of the kids, olvídate. Like,
yes.
You were used as an example.
Yes.
And it's that kind of school that gentrification like whitewashes and says these people are just all bad. They're just all bad, and we gotta take them out. We gotta take their home away so that we can displace them and they become powerless. Because we
Mm-hmm.
gotta grab and grab more land and more land, and then and
Mm-hmm.
people get really scared. They get really scared. So we need people like you, these testimonios, right? These
Mm-hmm.
testaments of our people and what we're doing to survive. And over here, amongst the gentrification five storm, Highland Park is gentrified hardcore 100%. Like, like all my neighbors are gone. Like I am a GV survivor, gentrification violence survivor. Okay. You are too. And so the thing is this is that people started to whitewash my murals that were their age, like you. I grew up looking at graffiti. Graffiti was
Right.
my gateway to art. So you know
That's
what?
right.
Don't mess with my graffiti. Leave it alone because you don't like it. You call it eye pollution. Guess what? I think it's beautiful and
Mm-hmm.
it represents me, and I have
Mm-hmm.
every right to fight about it. And then I find out about a federal law, right? The Visual Artists' Rights Act. And I teach all my community, guess what? They're whitewashing your mural. Well, these nice rich developers don't like to be sued. And they're like, oh, Brenda's more dangerous because now she's teaching like her neighborhood. If
Mm-hmm.
you come to LA and to Highland Park, if you whitewash a mural, you're gonna have to talk to me. You know what I'm saying? You're
Yes.
you're gonna have to hear what I have to say about your actions. I'm nobody, but you know what? I don't care because now with the internet, I have a voice. You know what
That's
I'm
right.
saying? So like this is what I started. I started educating my family, my like family and my friends and my whole neighborhood. Like this is wrong. You have a federal right to fight for your art. No art should be erased. No art should be whitewashed. Nobody's art should be whitewashed. Nobody's. And this is what created this consciousness, this and everybody in my neighborhood is like they're scared to come and erase our graffiti and our they're scared. They're like, okay,
Good.
we're gonna have some repercussions. And all I do is try to like one person just going to other communities, Boyle Heights, East LA, you know what I'm saying? Like all the other barrios, and like, look, if they erase your stuff, this is what you can do. And oh, really? We can fight for our art? Yes, because our art is sacred. There's sacred imagery in our art that we have to protect. And that is ours because to uplift us, to let us know how great we are and how great our ancestors were and still are.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm
It's
saying?
it's funny because I went to LA. I went to speak at a program called Homeboy Industries
Oh yeah, homeboy industry.
with
Yeah.
Father Greg.
Oh my God, yes.
Right.
A
So
lot
I
of good
went
work
there.
there.
It, it's an amazing program.
Yes.
And I still have friends today that I met there. But I was taken to Boyle Heights. I was taken to Highland. I was taken to Watts. I also went to speak at a prison because I forgot the name of the prison, but there's a program called, you know how you have Alcoholics Anonymous,
Yes.
well, there's a Gang Anonymous.
Okay,
These
nice.
group of
Yeah.
prisoners, mostly Mexican, put together a 12-step program for people who were in gangs. And
Beautiful.
going back to you saying about you being protected, that's exactly what we did.
Right.
There are kids today that have become teachers and DAs and legal aids and you name it's the gamut. Those little kids that we protected, I will see them and I can see one in the street and they remember. I remember you used to protect me when I was a little kid.
Oh,
And that is the most humbling
yes.
feeling
That's better
that
than
you can get.
gold. That's better
Yes,
than gold.
yes. And the fact that you mentioned about no money or anything in the world would change who we are. Trust me, there were people who offered me money
Oh, me
to
too.
keep quiet. to keep quiet, offered me positions in particular programs just for
Oh
me
yeah,
to keep quiet.
I feel you.
And I never sold out.
They don't
I
come
would
to me
never.
anymore. They're like, forget it. Brenda won't sell out. She
She's
just
not gonna
won't.
sell out.
And I have been put in positions of like, like right now, LAUSD doesn't want to allow us to restore a Xochipilli mural, which is the Aztec art god and of beauty and all these other wonderful like plants and mushrooms that that teach us like really powerful in this art. We look at it and we say this is an indigenous metaphor that means that
Mm-hmm.
that mycenial family is a metaphor for us, the community that lives underground, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is what this Xochipilli represents, this consciousness of unity, communion.
Oh,
But
okay.
people don't understand the depth because how are you going to understand something if they keep erasing it? You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
why? And then why does the biggest like school district in Los Angeles want to take the artist's rights away
Mm-hmm.
to restore a deeply sacred indigenous mural, and now because of me, because of my big mouth, they amended their artist waiver to include the federal law. Like, look at this little person, right? I'm such a little
That's it.
person and so minuscule that they had to change their documents to be like, oh, wait, we gotta take away what Brenda's teaching her community, like what to fight for there are federal rights. So they want to take his federal rights. Daniel Cervantes, the artist, who all his indigenous work has been whitewashed in our community, all deep indigenous artwork, and it's like why would anyone want to take away someone's artist rights?
Because they
Why?
want to erase you.
Rebecca, how would you
It's not
feel?
about
How would you
the
feel,
art.
Rebecca, if someone said, you know what, Rebecca, if you want to do this and do that, like you got to sign this art waiver that gives up your federal rights to your artist rights?
I was conditioned when I got into classical music. I had a different experience. I was very lucky in some ways, and at the same time, I didn't understand how much I was a pawn when I was younger. Um, so I thought, oh, I'm so talented, and actually, this is not to put down my talent or anybody else's talent. A lot of times it was, oh, you're a young blonde woman, and you're going to stand right here in this corner, and you're not going to leave this little teeny teeny square. So I think there was a time, to be honest with you, Ms. Brenda, and I want to say before I finish that I think that you should consider running for office, because
Yep.
I'm really loving to hear you speak.
I
And
agree.
I put run for something in there. They have emails and calls, and I just love hearing you speak, and I'd love to hear you speak in a really public forum and maybe as a member of the government. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Hey, I'm here for you, Rebecca, if they allow you to have me. Good luck with that. But I would
Well,
love to speak. I speak very candidly, and the truth hurts. And it's hard for some of us to accept the truth.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I'm
I love
someone
that
you call. Me and Lorraine are someone you call when we have hard truths that
Yeah.
need to be here and that sometimes some people are not ready to accept.
Right.
Yes, and Ms. Lorine, and it's a place in my life, and I can't believe I'm on this call because I'm also in a place in my life where I'm joining lots of boards. And it came after an experience on the Metropolitan Opera's DEI committee, which I was the only artist on. And because I could be there, because I'd been there for 15 years, so I knew that nobody could say that I didn't have talent because I'd been there for 15 years. So I would drive in 2 hours the day they opened this committee. And that really got me. So I'm joining more boards, and I was very moved by Ms. Lorine reaching this time in her life, and maybe having been the person I'm imagined that said the smart thing in many, many rooms that she was in. And then reaching a point and being like, no, you know what? I want to say the smart thing in the room where they're going to make the decision. And I'm just so inspired by that. But to answer your original question, Ms. Brenda, I wouldn't like it at all if someone told me to sign away my art. I would want there to be a federal law that was protecting me.
Yeah, there is a federal law protecting you, but LAUSD thinks that it's okay for them to take community right. The one little thing that we have to protect our art, they want to take away from us. And this is something that I'm gonna continue to speak out against. And I am so grateful for Artivism for this platform because there's no platforms like this. There's nowhere we can talk about these type of grievances and sometimes even get a little bit of funding. For us, a little bit of funding can go a long way. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, and this is, I just want to be again grateful to Argy and Carolina and Stephanie and everybody who is allowing these voices to be heard because we are more than so we are censored.
Art to me in every form is an expression of your community, your fears, your goals, your love, your empathy, your lineage, your culture. And if you erase that, then what do you have? And that's exactly why they tried to silence art. That is the reason why. Because if your kids are going to walk around your neighborhood and there are no murals and all they see is, I don't know, McDonald's and maybe signs of, pants for sale, things like that, there's no reinforcement or pride of their culture.
Exactly. And that's what they want to erase.
They know exactly what they're doing.
And not only that, but also remember, human beings are not a product, right? We're not supposed to be just consumers. We're supposed to be also producers. In that line, we're not here, at least from my point of view, I don't think that we're given this gift of being in this dimension just to purchase and purchase and purchase and contaminate the planet as we saw from space so beautifully, right? We're here for something else. Unfortunately, some people perhaps have reached that level more than others, right? But at the end, we have to think of the overall community as we've been discussing here, not only self. We have to build that community, especially now that, again, I go back to the current global status quo. And just as a fact that I came across the other day, when artificial intelligence will come out in the global platform, that will affect 2/3 of global South jobs. Jeez. Is that leading towards, a systemic unemployment? It's these kind of questions, because what will happen if there is a systemic unemployment on 2/3 of the global South population? And then on the other hand, currently, if you look at the data in regards to refugees, that number is still going up. Mm-hmm. So where is all this resources that is being generated by these new technologies and these industries going? Is it going again to that just 1% and then the 99%? What happens to the rest of us, right?
That's the problem, Carolina, is that we're waiting for them. No,
exactly. No, like someone put on the chat.
No, community resources and who's gonna lead that? People that are invested, and not just because there's a lot of performative artists out there, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of performing activists. Look at me, I'm doing this, and I'm doing all this because I want people to like my shit. No, I'm sorry. Like, that's done. Like, that, put that to rest. Put your ego has to die, and you have to start learning how to say, not me but we.
Yes.
Right.
Not me but we. What are we going to do as a community? How are we going to get together and create a think tank where we are going to find resources and learn from people like Lorine Padilla? Like, mm-hmm. In my school, I go to people like her. Shit. Like, what am I going to do? Tell me. And she's like, you know what? We got to get it old school. We got to bring it back. We got to bring back the days where, where we did what we have to do to survive. Community. You know why the cops never helped my hood? Is because they called our street the wetback street.
Of course.
And nobody came. And guess who I didn't call 911. You know who I ran to? I ran to Lorraine. I ran to the Lorraines in my neighborhood, and I'd be like, Lorraine, so and so did this. They broke into my house, beating up my family. And you know what, Lorraine? Boom, here we go. Call this person, call that person. People went with bats to my house. Like you said, and the cops never came. Some of us died waiting for the cops.
That's right.
And that's why me and Lorraine have very strong community like tactics. We have proven impacts. Our ways and our methods work because we had to do it without resources. And that's the thing. And let's not wait for them. How can we move forward and use art, right? To teach our communities to be resourceful without them.
Right.
Without their money. Without their money, without them.
That's
Carolina,
right.
you were going to say something. I think you said Frederick.
I was
going
to read two little comments on the chat. Brooks Frederick said that this is a great reminder of our power to organize in the face of corruption. If we stand together, they are scared of us. And then Stephanie Lake says, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. And that's by Margaret Mead.
I love that.
Yes. That is true.
I love it. I love Margaret. Yes.
But that, it's a fact that, here we go with the power of one. It just takes that one person to say, this is not right.
Yeah.
And if you have to, like I did, knock on doors, in my film, you'll see my oldest son where he says, sometimes we had to do, I think he says their own homework, and he had to take care of his siblings because mommy was out there saving some other kid.
Yeah.
And that is a fact. I have had to, activism doesn't come without certain regrets, but it's what you do with those regrets. Meaning, I left my kids home many times because I was out saving another kid, getting him out of jail, or talking to the parent because they got hurt in school, or trying to figure out.
But we knew who to call. You're
but the thing is,
if something goes down, and we had a community behind us.
No, but what I'm saying is, there were those nights that instead of my being home putting my kids to bed, I was in the streets.
Yeah.
Doing something. But I knocked on doors, like I said. I wrote petitions. I gathered people. I did everything I had to do, and it made a change in my community.
Yes. That's how it starts.
It started how? With one.
That's right.
Like you, mamita, that you say, you said, no, wait a minute. I'm not with this shit. Our art is something special.
So they took everything away from us. They took our houses. Even all of us that are displaced now, like thanks to social media, like we know which murals are erased, who did it. Like we know the whole process. We know that the LA Department of Cultural Affairs isn't going to help because they're not going to go against the the corrupt politicians that have power over them. Hey, they want their job. You know what I'm saying? Like, so they do what they're told. And that's the problem. Like this is not the time to do what you're told.
Right.
These are times right now where we're at a crossroads. You either pretend that your life is great and that you're all good because you know what? Like it's not the time right now. Right now, it's you have to say, am I going to be part of the people that are going to make a difference and contribute to these community resources? Or are we going to continue to be like pretending that everything's okay?
Right. It is not a time for the meek shall inherit the earth.
No,
it is not a time for that.
Yeah, exactly.
It is a time to be the warrior. It is the time to bring back, the Taínos, the Aztecas.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
All of
us. It is time to bring them forward and just fight. And it doesn't matter. I tell people this. I'm going to start a women's group soon in my home. But I tell people this. Pick a fight and fight, fight, fight.
Yes.
You don't have
That's
to fight for everything because, for example, I have to limit my group. So I'm not looking for more than maybe the highest might be 10, and that's stretching it because things can get lost when it's too large. But anyway, if each one picks up a fight to fight, we're fighting 10 different causes.
That's right. That's right.
And that one person that chose to fight immigration, now that one person is gonna bring, hundreds of people to fight with her.
That's right.
Right.
And another person might choose housing. They're gonna bring, and that's how it grows. And then one day we all get together and we're gonna go fight on March 3rd. We're gonna go fight with Clara for her fight against immigration, and so on and so forth. It's like a ripple effect.
Yeah,
And I believe very, very strongly that you must teach your children, and in my case, my children, my grandchildren, and if God helps me, my great-grandchildren, to be the fighters in their community, the fighters in their families, the fighters of the world. You have to teach your children the activism, artivism, whatever you want to call it. You must teach them. You don't want them to become sedated. I think that's a good word.
That's
sedated.
A good word.
I like sheep.
Yeah.
Become like sheep that are just herded.
Right.
Right.
That's it.
Right. You have to teach them that if they're in school and a teacher, it's teaching. I'm Puerto Rican, so if a teacher wants to, we had a great freedom fighter named Don Pedro Albizu Campos, and this man went to Harvard in like 1918 or something like that. I can't even remember the years. It was very early on. He went to Harvard. He's a graduate of Harvard, and he spoke like 7 languages. I mean, this man was intelligent. But anyway, he was fighting for the freedom of Puerto Rico because real quickly, Puerto Rico is still a colony of the United States. But anyway, if my kid is in school and they bring up Albizu Campo as a terrorist, I want to teach my kid to defend him.
Exactly.
At all costs. I always told my kids, you say what you want to say, and then leave the rest up to me.
Exactly.
That's it.
I think we need to have another session like this. There isn't in the Maureen. This is for Lorine. I'm a couple years older, lived in the Bronx most of my whole life. I remember hearing about you. I came from the projects, but going down to your neighborhood back then was another world completely. If you survived that, you have nothing to worry about today. Remember what Rita F. said in that movie. In other circumstances, these gang kids would be highly successful leaders. I've learned a lack of degree does not mean you are not intelligent or can lead a purposeful life. You made lemonade out of lemons. I really do think we should meet again because it's great speaking to you.
Can I just tell her something?
Yes, please.
I just want to, what's the name again?
It's a Maureen Spratley.
Okay, Maureen. I see you watched Flying Cut Sleeves, because that's where Rita says, had these kids been born to other families, we could have been the senators and the X and the Ys and the Zs. And that was a very profound statement that has remained with me forever. So yes, you're right. And what's up, Bronx girl? What's going down?
I did put Brenda's website, the link to her website, in the chat, so you can learn more. And if you want to connect, you just email Carolina and I and Dr. Lake at artivism@adelphi.edu, and we will connect you. You could do great things together. We could all do great things together.
I'm on Instagram too, Lorraine. So
put it in the
chat. I don't have a pen or pencil, but I could give all my information to RG.
Yeah,
RG,
definitely.
You guys can somebody asked what's the name of the film. It's what is it? La Madrina.
Yes.
Madrin, La Madrina, the
They also put the
Savage.
link in your
Okay,
poster.
great.
When I looked on your link in your poster,
That's right. All the information's there.
No, somebody asked, so
But
that's
no,
why
but
I
I
was.
think she's also asking about the film where that quote was from.
Yes.
Flying cut sleeves.
Flying cut sleeves. Okay.
Right. Listen, I'm known as the documentary queen, because it's flying cut sleeves. It's flying cut sleeves, 80 blocks from Tiffany, Rubble Kings, Black and Yellow. That's when I joined. I didn't join the Latin Kings, but I joined with the Latin Kings to fight police brutality. And what else is it? Decade of Fire. So I've been in quite a few films. So people make fun of me, and they tell me they're waiting to see when I'm gonna be walking the red carpet.
Here on Artivism, you have the red.
Yes, that's right.
I want to tell you guys, I really thank you for your invitation. I feel a kinship with you. I think it's a great program. I'm so thankful to Blanca for introducing us. I think that, here from my little humble abode, I can, help in anything that you might need me for. Continue doing what you're doing, and I will probably be joining most of your Zooms. And I wish you all well. Please stay safe. We're living in some hard times. It doesn't matter your skin color. Though, of course, we all know brown and black are the most, to get hit hard. But there are good white people, and there are good white people that are not rich white privileged. Right. And we have to keep that in mind too when we speak of, when we speak of these white men that are running the country. We have to understand that not every white person it seems that way. It does. It seems that way. But in my years, I'm 69 years old. And in my years of being an activist, I have come across so many good, humble white people that are our co-conspirators. I heard this from someone I admire very much, where he said, we don't need allies, we need co-conspirators. Yeah. And that has stuck with me. And it's something that I want to use from now on. Because I used to say allies, but that's a better way. We need
more than that. We need more.
Yeah. It's a better word for me, And it's like the saying goes, not all skin folk are kinfolk. Exactly. So it's the same thing, same kind of concept. So, bless you all. I really had a really good time. Thank you for the space. And if you need me, just call me. You have my number.
We will be calling you.
Oh, no.
I'll keep in touch.
Yes.
Keep in touch.
But yes, we need to
I got some stories for you, girl.
Girl, I want to hear them. I want to hear them. I don't know. I think, well, I did my DNA thing, that shit. And I have indigenous Mexican.
Oh, cool.
Like,
yeah.
Wait a minute. But like 13%, that's a lot.
That's a lot. Hey, Anahuac, the land of, like, before it was colonized, it was all the way over there.
Yes.
So, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yes,
it's in all of us.
I've tried to research my last name, and I come up with a lot of Mexicans, Padillas.
We're all connected.
Yes.
Even with the white people, we are all
connected. Yeah, I have plenty of Europeans.
All of us, we are all connected. As much as we don't want to see it, but we are, and it's the time right now to be united.
I look at us, like the Big Dipper. You know, the Big Dipper, when you look at it, you see like dots and lines and dots and
Yes,
lines. That's who we are.
exactly.
Because we are all energy. And
Exactly. Your star family, star
right,
familia.
exactamente. Todos somos familia.
Oh, that's right.
Exactamente.
And
Also,
look at the poster, the committee selected
Yes.
Artivism with the
Yes.
earth, you know, the grandma cradling the earth.
Yes.
there you
And
go.
I
Gio,
loved, you was right,
Gio's from my
RG.
neighborhood.
I loved his,
He's from my neighborhood. Gio,
I loved his
abuelita,
explanation.
Cosmica, he's from my hood. And
That's right.
He's
I
an
really
amazing
loved his
human being.
explanation.
Yes.
And
His
the other one
explanation
as
was
well is
so,
about connecting and bringing forth. But before we go today, and definitely we're gonna have to do a part 2 because you know, we went a little over, but thank you for staying over, everybody. We really appreciate you making the little break for this conversation, because it's during this time that we really get to also get to connect more, right? From hearing from the speakers and then interacting in this way is where community or familia is born, right? In
right.
Artivism, we have the tradition of closing each event with a takeaway. Therefore, each one of you, Ms. Ringle Kamarei and Ms. Padilla, the question is, what will be your key takeaway for the audience today, right? To take as an action item to put forth in their life?
You know, it's gonna be something that might sound cliche, but be good to yourself. Be very good to yourself, because if you're not good to yourself, you can't be good for others. You cannot be an Artivism, you cannot be an activist, you cannot be a mom, a dad, a sister, a brother, a daughter, whatever. So take care of yourself. No matter what you do, and if you decide to take up an action, take time to breathe. Take time to de-escalate. Take time, no, digress, to digress, because I mentioned earlier that we are all energy. And as we pick up positive energy, we also pick up negative. And we need to clean ourselves of that. So be good to yourself, be kind to yourself, respect yourself and love yourself, and everything will fall in line. That is my takeaway. And nothing is too small to fight for.
I think mine, it comes from my position, right? Which is, I think if you feel like you've been given a platform, which I have, son's on the floor, then maybe get better at listening, right? Maybe get better at listening, and maybe get better at taking guidance and mentorship from places that you maybe haven't before, and then figure out what those people need and figure out how to help them. I think that a lot of people could grow up, a lot of privileged white people could grow up a lot by just shutting their mouth and listening, and then thinking. Maybe take a minute, think about that, change your entire world view if you need to. Take a second, breathe, like Ms. Padilla said, and then think about how you can help.
Thank you, Rebecca. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. And
Thank you everyone for being here today. Thank you, Brenda, for always, you spark all these conversations. You're so passionate.
No, I just want to say thank you again. That's it. I'm saying, you know what? I'm grateful. I'm so grateful to all of you.
And we are to you.
I'm going to be grateful all day today to have met someone like Rebecca and Lorine Padilla. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm so grateful.
Thank you, everyone. For more information on this and all the series past and upcoming events, you can go to our YouTube channel. You could just Google Adelphi Artivism, Artivism for Shared Humanity. Thank you to our sponsors, Adelphi University, Sing for Hope, Gottesman Libraries of Teachers College, to Dr. Stephanie Lake, to Carolina, Lorine, thank you so much. We will be connecting. We need you to speak to our students. We will show them the film problem. And then we will have you zoom in. And thank you so much, Rebecca, not for just giving us the keynote, but actually staying till the very end.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I know you have,
let's hear it for the iPad.
Thank you so much. Be well, everyone. Thank you.
Be well. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
The next one.
Okay.